Greetings and welcome to episode 25 of the Old Patrol HQ podcast. I'm your host, Gil Maza. Today, we bring you Deputy Patrol Agent in Charge and author J.J. Carrell, Class 339, retired out of the Newton Azraq Station at San Diego Sector, to talk about his new book, Invaded, The Intentional Destruction of the American Immigration System. He doesn't mince words or pull punches as he lays out the facts by the numbers and is upsetting all the right people and saying what the agents and officers working the southern border need him to say for them and for the safety and security of our country. Come and take a listen. Good morning, JJ, and welcome to the Old Patrol HQ podcast.
Hey, man, Gil, thanks for having me on. I find, especially in these times, we need to be able to talk openly with each other, especially with like minds, and because sometimes you feel like you're in an echo chamber. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, I'm glad to have you with me, and I'll tell you what, we're going to be talking about stuff that you and I both know a lot of people don't want to hear, right? But we're echoing what's going on out in the border, what's really going on out with our fellow men and women that serve currently in the Border Patrol. And so I'm really excited to get through this conversation, and I'm hoping we're going to have a few more conversations as this goes, because there's a lot going on that I want you to share with us. But let's start out by having you talk to us about how you got started in the patrol and give us a little progression, an idea of who JJ was like in the Border Patrol.
Okay, when my father was a Secret Service agent, he ended his career as Special Agent in Charge in Louisiana. And I played football in college at a small Division II school and football scholarship. And I knew that I wanted, my ultimate dream was to get into professional football. And I did, but not in the NFL. But I knew I love that teamwork, and I love the physicality of football. So my father and I sat down, and I idolized my dad. So I wanted to be like my father, like a lot of young men want to do. I knew I didn't want to get into Secret Service exactly, but I knew I wanted to get in law enforcement. I'm more of a instant gratification guy, if you will. My father said to me, "Hey, listen, JJ, the U.S. Border Patrol is hiring. Everyone else is a hiring freeze in the late '90s." And he said, "You might love the Border Patrol." And he said, if you don't like it after 2 or 3 years, every agency will come hunting for you. He said this because he had several Border Patrol agents that transferred to him in the Secret Service. And as he said, those are my go-to guys. Those are the guys I say, I need to kick that door in. I need to go because if it's counterfeiting or whatever, and those were the first guys in the door, and I knew they would take care of business. And he said, and every agency in the federal government believes the same thing I do. So I was like, okay, well, great, let's try it out. If I don't like it, then I can move on. I got in class 339, and we were in Charleston, which is, it's a submarine base basically.
Yeah.
And they had no windows in the buildings. Remember, it was crazy, it was bizarre.
Well, not all of us can be Glencoe rock stars.
No, we were in Charleston in the middle of June and July and August. So I grew up in New Orleans. So I remember standing in a formation and guys getting eaten by mosquitoes and freaking out because they'd never been west of the Mississippi. But that was the world I grew up in. So I kind of embraced it. But I fell in love with the Border Patrol. The academy was an incredible experience. It just reminded me of a 2-a-day football camp in high school and college. So I was used to the Hell Week and all that. Didn't faze me. I'm basically a Wedo, so Spanish was brutal to me. It was very difficult. But I remember making my dry run to Imperial Beach station where I was my duty station. And I drove down I-5 to try to figure out how to get to my station because I don't want to be late the first day. So I did a dry run. And I remember driving down Hollister Bridge, or Hollister Street. You remember when you go to the border, and San Diego was so beautiful. I got there in October. I didn't see a cloud, literally a cloud in the sky for 30 days. San Diego is just spectacularly beautiful. And I grew up in the deep South, and there's beauty there, but nothing like San Diego, especially back then. It was so, it was like a little gem not discovered. And I remember driving, and this was my first experience on the border, is driving down there that first day. And all of a sudden, it was weird. I went, wow, the sky's not blue anymore. It's like an orange haze. And I didn't know what that was. And come to find out later in my career, that's Tijuana. That's all the pollution, and the smells were so. I remember driving down PA Drive off of Hollister Street to get to Imperial Beach Station. And I remember how excited I was to go this new adventure. And that's when we had all these trainees coming in before me and after me. So I was just like a cog in the wheel, but I knew that I didn't know the term slug yet. And I didn't know the term, a hard charger. I didn't know those, but I knew that I wanted to be on the top echelon of the people. Not in an arrogant way, but just from being a grinder and a worker. And I remember driving up there that first day. And if you ever been to Imperial Beach, once you get to the Imperial Beach Station, you look out to the border. It's about, as a crow flies, maybe 2-3 miles, but you can see the border and the border fence. And then off in the distance is that gigantic Tijuana, the Mexican flag flying in the square of Tijuana. And that flag must be 100, 200 feet long. It's enormous. And I remember sitting there in the parking lot. It was a dirt parking lot back then, and had trailers. It was trashy, right? They didn't have a new station yet. And I remember thinking, I know that I don't know everything, but I know that my life is changed. It's changed indefinitely. And I don't know what is going to transpire in my career, but I know that this day, everything in the past is the past. This is new life. And I was so damn excited, man. Just so excited.
You're making me remember all those feelings.
Oh, and the smells, right? Even in the daytime, the border is so unique and so different from day and night, right? The border, and I write in my book, Invaded, it's a creature to its own, the border is. And you have to get that acknowledgement of that it's a creature that lives and breathes. And it took me a while, right? Because as a trainee, you're just so inundated with information, learning trails and sensors and how to process, for God's sake. Remember how archaic that was?
Hell, surviving your 10-month. My God, right?
10-month, right?
You're on pins and needles the whole time.
Oh, yeah, but Gil, you're a native speaker. I always told you guys, shut up. You have no idea. What if you're going to take that test and you had to speak French? You would lose your mind. As a white guy that never spoke Spanish from the South, I was just like, oh, dear God. I mean, I don't get sick, but I was close to having ulcers because that was insanity.
Yeah.
You fail, you're fired. I mean, who does that? That's kind of insane how they did that.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other topic. But I remember just being in the Border Patrol and being so proud. I just moved my family from San Diego, and we're now with my wife's family in Kansas. And I was going through, as you move, you go through all your stuff. And I came across a bunch of letters and pictures. And it was a letter that I sent to my father, who's now deceased. It was like my second year in the patrol, and I read the letter because he gave it back to me before he passed. And it was a letter about how proud I was. Like, I can't believe, Dad, how proud I am to wear the uniform and defend our country. And I even wrote, I can't believe they're paying me to do this. I mean, I wake up and I am excited to go to work. Now, Gil, there were days and there were stretches in my career where I questioned, what in the hell am I doing here, right? And it wasn't the men and women I worked with.
No.
Or a lot of times, not even for who I worked for, even though there were periods of leadership within the Border Patrol that disgusted me. But it was the politics. I can remember and I feel like I'm an intelligent man. I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but I feel like I'm intelligent and I think very rationally. And I remember rationally thinking, sitting on the border, what are we doing? This is a lie. They're lying to us. They're lying to the American people. We would secure the border in San Diego during the most violent times, and then I would feel good and strong about the people I put in jail. And then I would go out on my days off, and I would see hundreds of them in Home Depot, and I would see jamming our busing and transportation systems in our schools and reading the reports of murders and rapes and their illegal aliens. And I'm thinking, what are we doing? We're Operation Gatekeeper. We're supposed to be in level 3, 4, not stuck back in the 90s in level 1 Operation Gatekeeper. And that's when I knew, sadly, that, okay, this is all political. And what we're doing is not the right thing. It's morally wrong what we're doing. And the way, and I know Border Patrol agents go through this, and I talked to my father many times, and my brother-in-law was extremely high up in the FBI. He can't sleep at night anymore because he's so disgusted at what's happened to his old agency. And it's interesting to talk to ATF agents who I had friends with and Border Patrol and Secret Service and FBI. They all shared somewhat of the same resentment, if you will, that we share. Ours is just exasperated more because of the overwhelming numbers that we would witness and see in our career. And it was sad to go through my career basically losing. If you want to talk about in terms of teams and winning and losing, we were losing, right? If we were honest, we were losing. For the first time in my career, prior to my retirement in 2021, and it's been 2 years ago, we were winning under Donald Trump. You can say whatever you want to say about Donald Trump, but he is the greatest border president that we've ever had. We were within I always tell people, about 9 months to 18 months of his next term as president of closing the border down. I mean, it was the first time, and I don't know if you remember,
JJ, let me pause you right there because you're starting to get into the meat of what we really want to talk about. But before you get there, just give me a little bit of a how did you end your career? Where did you end up? And what did you end up as? And close down that segment for us. And then, man, we will get into this guns blazing.
Okay. I became a trainee journeyman agent in 1997, class 339. We have 13 of us. We nicknamed ourselves the Baker's Dozen, right? In Imperial Beach. And I spent my first decade in guarding the Tijuana border. And if you people remember in San Diego, we actually took over Chula Vista's east side of San Ysidro Port of Entry to Otay Mesa. So I did about 6 to 11 miles of the border my first 10 years. And I picked up my super SBPA in Imperial Beach and ran my own scoot unit. It took me a long time I think, to become a supervisor and then move up the ranks. And moving up, 2 things prohibited me from moving up the ranks faster. One was if you remember the reorganization of the Border Patrol, where everything got shut down and only the FOSs could get promoted to watch commanders, and there was about a 5-year window, and it was very discouraging. Mm-hmm. But the other thing that prohibited me, and I do take some culpability in the lack of me promoting to where I wanted to end my career, because I did buck the system, because I was so frustrated with the lies. And I took a different route. I remember standing in muster on day shift. I was working overtime. I always worked swings or mids, and I worked a day shift. And the FOS at the time came in, and I was about 2 years in, and I'll never forget this. He said, you can either make 2 choices. It's very simple. It's binary. You either can be a grinder and work and make your bones on the border. It's going to take you forever to get promoted, or you can go to sector and you could do PR and you could do all this dare and all this other stuff that has nothing to do with the border, and you can rise up the ranks. And I remember sitting there going, no, my dad didn't do that. My dad ended as a GS-15 like a chief and was extremely successful. But my father had the same mindset as I did, and his career stalled about the same time mine did, and then he skyrocketed up for the same reasons, that he had a very strong moral code of, and I'm not saying I'm better than anybody, but I had a moral code that, no, I'm getting paid. I'm not going to talk about the border at PIO or whatever, and we need that, right? We need PIO, but I'm going to make my bones on the border, and that's how I'm going to get respect and street cred. So when I become a supervisor, when I say, hey, we're going to go down to the channel and we're going to have to get dirty and filthy and we're going to have to fight. No one's going to say, well, this guy. They're all going to say, no, I saw that guy do that like a million times. You better listen to him. He's done it. He knows what he's talking about. So I left Imperial Beach, and after a decade, I went to San Clemente for a lateral transfer as a supervisor. And I created the Coastal Border Enforcement Team, which is CBET. And I grew that to about 50 men, agents from 2 stations, San Clemente and Marietta, and brought in 10 OFO officers and a dozen or so National Guardsmen. And we, over time, within 5 years, shut down the maritime smuggling of the hard narcotics and human smuggling on the coast. And it was one of the most satisfying times in my career because it was brand new, right? In law enforcement, it's very rare to do something unique for the first time, right? So the Coastal Border Enforcement Team was a first time ever landside maritime smuggling. And we were highly successful. One of my agents went and testified against El Chapo Guzman because we were arresting all of his loads to testify and help secure his conviction. So it was a very important time in my career and a time that I found great enjoyment. I became watch commander in the Marietta Northern Station of San Diego Sector, and I finished my career as deputy patrol agent in charge. My goal in my career starting out is I wanted to end as a patrol agent in charge. That was, I didn't care about the politics of being a chief and a chief and all that. I wanted to be in the mix with the men and women. So I never really attained my goal. But that's who I am. And I strongly believe now I've made my mistakes as a manager, made my mistakes as an agent, and I will own up to those because we all learn. However, I was never malicious. I always back my agents, and I believe that, as I write in my book, and I take great pride in this, when you call out a 1010 or you need a backup, you were happy when I showed up, because I wouldn't hesitate to do everything in my power to make sure that we were safe. And that didn't matter whatever level of violence was being pushed on you or my fellow guys, that I would go beyond that violence and I would take care of business immediately. And as a supervisor, I was respected. And when those type of situations happened, and you remember as being an agent, everything went sideways all the time. We weren't in an office. We were on a hillside, in a creek bed, on a mountain. We were fighting people that wanted to kill us. And things would just escalate and go crazy that the normal human being or even the normal law enforcement officer could not understand what we did out there. Yeah. So I prided myself on being the supervisor that showed up, and agents would be going, oh, thank God he showed up. He's going to take care of me. He's going to walk me through, because we go back, Gil, to I had been on that other side, right? I had been that agent where I was getting in fistfights and it was bloody and trying to articulate what happened, and having a supervisor tell me good and the bad, right? But having a good supervisor saying, don't worry, pulling me aside. This is what you need to write. You're going to hand the memo to me. I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to write the report the way it needs to be. Not lying, not telling falsehoods, but managing a crisis situation where the outcome benefits me. Instead of having a crappy supervisor that's scared of them, scared of the shadows, never been down in the weeds, freaking out seeing blood and people all banged up, and freaking out and writing a memo or writing the report in a way that cast a shadow on me or my guys.
Yeah. Well, so JJ, when something happens along the border, it's traumatic. It's traumatic. But sometimes the process of getting, through that, the investigation and everything else and management is more traumatic than the actual ass whipping.
You're absolutely right. And
when you have the wrong people.
Yes, absolutely. And I have been sued by activists and I've spent days on the beach. I've done it all. So I have been through that, where you said it, and you're absolutely 100%. I'm a big guy, and I was always in shape, and I was aggressive, because I never shot anybody. I pulled my weapon out many times, but I never shot anybody. I didn't use my tools on my belt. I used my hands, and I figured if anybody's going to beat me, if they're that much better than me physically, then I'm going to have to go to my weapon. But I've been in those situations, and I remember thinking, I'm not afraid of that guy from Guatemala or the MS-13 guy or these gang members. I'm not afraid of them. I'm going to win. I'm going to win. I'm scared to death of the political people within the INS at the time and DHS and those blood-sucking AUSAs that were looking for a scalp off me or one of my guys, because that was the fear, and being sued and being left to hang out. And I had that, where I was sued by activists that I arrested, and my government turned their back on me. Not my men and women that I'm fighting for on the border,
Yes.
but the politicians turned their backs on me. And I remember that. I remember that betrayal. It took me a long time to come back and go, what's my true north? What am I here? What am I doing? And I had to really kind of segment that part of my career and move it to the side, not forget it, never forget, but push it to a side and I need to be productive, and I need to be back on the path where I want to be. But you're absolutely right, Gil. It is the process after the trauma that was the most devastating to me and to agents today, because you're always talked about or questioned as if you're the bad guy. And I loved having the very, very few supervisors I had,
and I had them too.
And you began, and as I rose up the ranks, I imitated that, right? I knew the guy I wanted to be, but that dirtbag that we arrested in the middle of the night, he's the problem, not me, not the way I reacted to it. I had to pull my ass, or I had to punch him multiple times because of his actions. I asked him to stop. If he just put his hands out and I handcuff him, we all go, or zip tie him, we all go back to the station and I'm fine. But now I'm at 3 o'clock in the morning after swing shift, writing a freaking memo, trying to articulate why that savage caused me to strike him multiple times in his face.
While you're coming down, while your adrenaline's coming down, your half of you is in shock, and half of you is just in a world of hurt, right? Now, you started to allude to this before. So you and I both know that the immigration system in this country has never been 100% perfect, right? We've seen, like you said, the politics. We've seen presidents come and go. We've seen administrations come and go and things like that. But I will piggyback on what you mentioned earlier. The reality, based on the numbers, just the numbers alone, and you can get these numbers at CBP DHS. There's no secret to it. There's no sleight of hand. That this administration inherited the most secure border, in I don't know, in about 40 years, maybe 50 years, maybe 80 years, I don't know, but they inherited a secure border, as secure as it could be for decades.
Yes.
Right. So start from there again, and let's talk about that.
Well, man, and I talk about this in the book that I just published called Invaded, right?
Yes.
I talk about President Trump. People, you have to go back, right? We have to go back in our brain and remember what it was like under Clinton and Bush, right? They straddled the fence, right? They play both sides because they're kind of that way type of humans they are. But then we came into Obama years. Obama, if people remember, his deputy secretary of DHS was Alejandro Mayorkas, who's the tip of the spear of everything. Prior to coming to DHS deputy secretary, he was his director of USCIS. So we have a guy now that's the secretary that has been in this for over a decade and knows the ins and outs, and he's working them day and night to destroy America. And I have that in my book. I call him a traitor, and I will not apologize. I will not backtrack. And in my book, and I'll be fine here, and I'll detail how he's a traitor to our nation, because this is happening. Under President Bush, he left that puppet Biden completely with almost a complete secure border. Let me tell you, let me just give you an example for numbers. I love numbers because numbers don't lie. You can call it racist or whatever, but data is data. So I would get the 24-hour report, right? Every 24 hours over the whole continental US, how many arrests we had. At the end of Bush, under Trump's years, we were averaging 150 to 450 arrests in a 24-hour period across the freaking border. That's nothing. That's Border Patrol interior arrests too, included into 450. We had like 150, 200 getaways, which getaways are very subjective, but they were minute, right? We could count them. It wasn't a herd of millions. We could count, okay, 3 or 4 people cross San Diego, down at Del Rio. I see that it's 10, right? We add them up.
Because we had bodies in the field to be able to go out and, you know, count them, right? And track and sign cut them and count them.
Absolutely. And then you immediately get Biden, and those 24-hour cells in the first year of Biden's term before I retired. Those numbers jumped to over 5,000 in one day, in 24 hours, 5,000. And at least that many getaways that they counted. And we know that's a lie. How do you count 5,000 getaways? How do you count right now? They're claiming monthly they have over 200,000 border arrests every single month. And they're claiming that they've only had, since Biden's come in office, less than 2 million getaways. Number one, I want to say that's a lie. I know from my experience and data and talking to guys in the field, number one, there's no one on the field doing it's minimal to zero enforcement. So you have as we all know, the rule of thumb is everyone you arrest, minimums 2-3 times that getaway. And we know that's true. So I'm telling you that we're averaging a little over 220,000-ish that they're claiming. And I don't trust DHS. This is their numbers. 220,000 arrests. I know that there's minimum another 220 to 300,000 to 400,000 getaways. San Diego sector used to have no getaways when I left. Now they're in the thousands, tens of thousands every month. We're looking at, for a great round number, about 500,000 people are coming into the border illegally, undetected, and absconding, or coming through fraudulently, being arrested and released fraudulently under asylum, parole, whatever the hell else.
Or the new government-funded app we now have, right? We now have we have an app for that.
Well, you know, it's amazing. They started out God, there's so much when you unpack it, right? Yeah. First off, we have to explain to the average person. Number one, the ability to determine the number of immigrants and types of immigrants coming to our country rests solely in the House, in the Congress. But the Congress is so impotent, so weak, that they've abdicated that to the executive branch. In the executive branch, it's already been determined in the Constitution and in multiple Supreme Court cases that they do not have the authority to just willy-nilly open up a parole system or asylum. Look what they're doing with CBP One out. They said they're going to bring in 30,000 people a month. Now they lied and said now it's 1,450 a day, which comes to 43,000. So they're bringing in 43,000 legal aliens into our nation through a fraudulent CBP One app. The same thing you do on your iPhone, where I want to go to a restaurant down in San Diego. I go to open table app and reserve my spot. There's no security. So when you look at what's happening on the border, I want to go back just for a second, Gil, because I want to talk directly to the agents that are working right now. And I know you're watching. I know you spread this around and you show it. I need you to understand that what is happening right now on the border is unprecedented. Okay. Yeah. Never before done. And I'm not broad brushing you, the agents that are working now, and saying, look at me, I was on patrol. No. I'm talking from an agent to an agent, and a man that is now outside of it, looking in with I had clear eyes before, but they were clouded because I was doing the job, right? And you get fixated on your task forces and management. But as I pull back, I'm telling you, PA from Del Rio and the PA from San Diego sector and out in Albuquerque, I'm telling you that you have been lied to, and now you are being brainwashed to believe that this is normal. Yes. This is not normal. Having 200,000+ people squat on the border with their luggage, you bring them in the station, you enroll them, and you let them walk out the door by the hundreds of thousands, by the millions. It's now 7 million have been arrested and released under Biden. That is not normal. You are being brainwashed. And I'm going to give you an example, Gil. 2 examples. One that was from 6 months ago when I was writing my book, and one from yesterday. 6 months ago, I'm writing my book. I reach out to a friend of mine, and he's the supervisor at ICE in San Diego. And he was excited because he said, I just got reauthorized to do my fugitive task force, and I'm out there making arrests. And I'm so excited. I said, well, wow, how many arrests have you made? And he was so excited and so proud. I made 170. And I paused. And I was like, wait a minute, San Diego sector has over 3 million. I mean, San Diego County has over 3 million people. The large portion of that 3 million, it's an immense amount of illegal aliens. And I said, wait a minute, man, listen to yourself. You're excited over 170. You should be excited about 17,000 or 170,000. I said, do you understand that you have been normalized to the chaos? And to his credit, he goes, oh my God, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I can't believe that I've been hoodwinked. And then just yesterday, I get a call from someone from Texas. Very, very strong agent. Worked with him in San Diego. Very professional. And he said to me, yeah, I just left the processing area in Texas, but things have calmed down. And I was like, okay, here we go again. No, they haven't calmed down. And I said, okay, well, how many people did you leave today? Well, there's 1,000 in there. I said, well, how many did you release? Oh, recently, at least another 1,000. They bring another 1,000. I said, bro, do you listen to yourself? Please, you can't be brainwashed by the upper management at DHS. This is not normal. And it's like I woke him out of slumber, and he was just like, yeah, when you say it like that, I go, well, yeah, I said, think back 5 years ago in your career, not 50 years ago, 5 years ago. Now let's look back 3 years ago. We had the border shut down. Everyone you arrested was deported. ICE was sacking up over 100 and something thousand a year, just ransacking the neighborhoods to get rid of them. And now you're okay with releasing thousands a day?
Yeah.
And so you agents that are watching this and you share it with your buddies, I'm not angry at you, because I remember being in that position. But I'm telling you, from a guy that's been down in the trenches and a guy that was in senior leadership, I'm telling you, the people that are managing you are lying to you. And you've been brainwashed to believe that this is normal. There's nothing normal about this.
Now, JJ, for the last since I started this whole project, now it was not my intention to even get involved in all this. I retired. I was going to ride into the sunset, as the previous chief said, basically tell lies and sell my trinkets, right? And but I have described this from the beginning as the greatest and deadliest taxpayer-funded human trafficking event, smuggling trafficking event in the history, not just of the patrol, but the history of the country.
Yes.
And but that's not enough. Our last Chief Scott lasted 8 months in the Biden administration because he fought to the end. He would not go out and say the border was closed. He would not go out and say our borders were secure. He would not go out and even say illegal alien, for that matter.
Yes. Remember
right?
that?
Even the union got upset at him and said that he gave up too soon. He gave up too quickly. So now here comes the next chief.
Yeah.
And we see a green uniform now on TV going throughout all the sectors, went out on a love fest tour with Mayorkas to convince the agents that the border was closed and secure. And I have a million recordings of Mayorkas and Ortiz saying the border's secure, the border's closed. But you have a green uniform now saying, guys, we've seen this all before. When I was an operator back in the day, we saw these numbers in Brownsville. We saw these numbers in RGV. Even Gloria Chavez said we saw these numbers. We've always seen these numbers here in RGV. No, by the numbers alone. Go ahead.
Well, no, there's so much, like, so what if the numbers were the same? We didn't release them, did we?
Yeah.
We VR'd them all, didn't we?
Yeah.
Remember back the old VR? We VR'd everybody.
Fondly.
Everyone, if you didn't, I remember just going to be a supervisor, get rid of them. I don't care. I don't care what they are. VR them, get out in the field because we're getting killed, right? That was the hold the line, hold the line. So they're liars. They're just like, or I watch Ortiz and standing there next to Mayorkas, and I'm thinking, hey, bro, why don't you grab your balls and be a man and stop this lying? You're lying to PAs. You were a Border
Yes.
Patrol agent. How do you think those men and women are going to buy your BS? Come on, dude. But he sold his soul because he loved DC. He loved going to parties. He liked going to Congress. But he was a liar.
Yeah.
He sold his soul. Now, when people look at him, they go, "You're a traitor. You traded all of that opulence, and you threw us away, bro." Now, when Rodney Scott goes on TV or he goes to a Border Patrol event, he's revered.
Yes.
Why is he revered? Because he would not buckle. He wanted to secure the border. You don't have to like everything Rodney Scott did.
No.
But you have to give him utter respect because he held the line, man. He didn't kowtow. Why didn't Ortiz say, "Hey, man, I'm gonna give you a great example of how you know when someone's a liar." What did Ortiz say right before he left? "We really need to build some wall." Really? Now you feel comfortable because you're retired, you're not going to get fired, that you're going to say we need to build a little wall? How about Ortiz? We need to build a lot of wall, but you're a liar, right? I can't stand these men. I can't stand them. And I can't stand when Gloria Chavez and those people say, "Well, we've been through this before." No, we never been through this
No,
before.
not by the numbers
Never.
at all.
Never.
At all.
Not even close. You go back to the days prior to me being in there, late 80s, early 90s, when Vero Beach was chaotic. It was still catch and send them back to Mexico as quick as you can, get back on the field. It was not catch them and then release them, and then we just stand there with our hands in our pockets and go, "Well, it's just the way it is." It's
Or
a
in
lie.
Del Rio, JJ, in Del Rio, they actually could sit at the station and watch cameras where the bodies are filing into Texas. They can't even intercept them or process them because 50 to 60% of these NGO cartels, which is what they are,
yes, they
are processing people that the Border Patrol never even encountered. So are those numbers getting counted? Except for gotaways, I guess.
Okay, the gotaways are such a. I mean, let's just. I always do this, Gil, and especially in my book, I write this. I go, listen, all the data that I'm going to use, I'm going to take straight from DHS and say this is the truth, even though I absolutely disagree with their data. I think they're liars and they manipulate it.
Agreed.
And I've caught them over and over and over lying, right? Because I poured myself into this, where I'm looking at all the data, looking at the reports, listen to Mayorkas, which I want to vomit when I listen to him talk. But let's just go off of their data. They're claiming that they're around 1.75 million getaways since Biden's taken office. Are you okay with 1.75 million getaways? I can remember working swing shift at IB and having 5 getaways, and it would keep me up at night, and we would be, as a shift, freaking pissed off at each other. Like, how did that guy, did they go through that slugs area? What was he doing? Was he watching TV? We would be irate with each other. And now you're okay with almost 2 million by your numbers?
By their numbers.
Yes. And Gil, look, I did the math, and like I wrote in my book, Invaded, the numbers right now are about anywhere from 12 to 15 million total getaways and arrests and releases. 12 million bottom baseline by his last year. Biden, please God, let him die or not get elected again. He's going to have allowed in between 20 and 30 million people. And I describe this, and people will say, "Oh, you're a racist." This is a demographic shift, not in the ways of old, right? The majority of everyone we arrested were Mexicans, Guatemalans, Hondurans, sprinkle some El Salvadorians in. Now we're at 175 out of 195 nations have been accounted for in America. Nations, I get reports from guys out in the field, Gil, and I'm sure you do too.
Yep.
And I feel like I'm a smart man, but I have to look these up and see if they're real nations. I didn't even know they existed, right? And where the hell is it, right? Where's Uzbekistan? Where's Burma Faiz? I don't even know how to pronounce it correctly. Where are they? So this is not a racist or xenophobic. This is, I believe, if you ask me what my ultimate thesis is, I believe that we are looking at the fundamental transformation of America through the complete destruction of our immigration system. And you don't have to wonder if that's happening. You just look at it globally. It's happening across the globe. Southern poor nations are pouring into the Western nations, and all the Western leaders are all saying the same thing.
Yes.
We need to bring these in. We need diversity. We need X, Y, and Z. No. We have sovereignty. America is great because of her citizens. We are not great because of foreigners. And now you have the Center for Immigration Studies came out 3 months ago.
Yeah, Todd Benjamin. Yeah, I follow him.
You found him, but did you see the report that their demographer put out? And no one reported on it. So between 2016 and 2021, the birth rate in Americans are below the reproduction rate across races, right? The population growth in America during those 5 years, 77% of the total population growth in America were foreign nationals, illegal aliens, and their children. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, within one generation, we will be outnumbered, citizens versus non-citizens. Game over. Game over. And then, and Gil, I'd like to just ask one question that I throw out there when people say, well, you know, X, Y, and Z. And I say, okay, wait, stop. Has anybody asked Mayorkas or Chief Ortiz before he left, what is the magic number of illegal aliens that cross that will trigger us to close the border?
Yeah, no or even get angry.
Question.
Yeah, yep. No, absolutely, absolutely. And that's the thing. I don't think people realize that, first of all, we've had illegal immigration populations counted by the census already switch seats in many houses in the states.
Yes.
What do they think is going to happen with these multiple millions now being funneled in for the last 901 days of this administration? And it's going when they count the next census, we're going to have seats shifting all across the country because Biden initially sent everybody to 70% of everybody from the border to red states.
Yes.
And it wasn't until Abbott and then started sending people to their actual sanctuary cities, but they're not sanctuary. And, you know, they're only sanctuary when sanctuary people don't show up. But it's going to change the face of the political landscape, like it or not. And that's not even something we'll be able to stop anytime soon.
Right. And look, I'm an optimist, or I was an optimist growing up. I'm more, as I get older, I'm sure you feel the same way, Gil, is we're realists. We see it as it's a numbers game now.
Yes.
The only way that this stops, the only way, is President Trump gets reelected, because President Trump has come out and said, I would actually go back into the Border Patrol to be a part of this. We will have the largest deportation force in the history of America, and we will deport everyone. Anyone that's here under Biden's term will be forced to leave. All asylum, parole, all that is gone. That's the only way. If we have another, election the way we had it, you can read into that whatever you want.
Right.
If we have another election like this and America is forced to deal with somebody like Kamala Harris, Biden again, we're looking at the destruction of America. There's no way that our country can withstand the influx of foreign nationals into our nation. Look, I can ask you, this is not theoretical. Tell me a nation or civilization throughout the history of Earth that has ever brought in this percentage of foreign nationals into a nation and survived. And the answer is you cannot tell me one.
Well, look at France right now.
And look at what the media does. You have to go dig and dig and dig and say, well, who's burning the place down? Well, they're all illegal aliens from Muslim nations south of France. I don't know if you saw the other day, I think it's 3 days ago, they actually set on fire the largest library in France. And they had stuff back from the 1100s. It was equivalent, or even worse, really, excuse me, than going to the Library of Congress and burning it to the ground. And no one says anything. It's okay. And as I talk about this in my Substack writings and in my book. What is happening in Europe now? You have individuals, mainly single adult military age men, that were brought to a nation or nations with great fanfare. We love you. We need you. You're the greatest. Excuse me. We give them hotels, all the food, all the money and services.
Oh, yes.
But then the services become finite and we pull them back. And then the real curtain gets pulled back No, actually, we brought you here because we need slaves. We need slaves to work for cheap labor. You're going to live in hovels. You're not going to have any hope. You're going to be dirty, tired, frustrated, angry. And then what does very tired, hungry, dirty, and hopeless young men do? They
Right.
fight. And they're fighting back, and they don't look up and see aristocrat French or normal French. No, they think you're all oppressive. That is happening already in America. It's already started, not to the level of France, but it's going to get
But
there
across many
because
cities, yes, you're
yes,
right. Yeah. Now look,
you look,
in the
yeah,
last since I began this whole thing, I've been described as disgruntled, angry. I survive on rage and coffee. I'm sure you spend most of your time that way too, because you are pissed at what you see.
yes,
And I can't move on with my entire life because I daily get pissed. When are
yep,
they going to get pissed? When are they going to finally, like you said, when is enough going to be enough? And, I know that guys, a lot of people have to keep their jobs. I know a lot of guys in DHS, CBP that are trying to hold the line to see what's going to happen in
yep,
the next election, trying to get by. But there's a lot of them, JJ, that are full on for what's going on. I mean, anytime anybody will go out of their way and compliment this administration or compliment this DHS secretary, Ortiz went to a retirement convention. And the last time I went, Chief Scott was there. He gave a great speech, told what was going on. And then he spent the evening there in the little parranda room that nobody's supposed to know about, right? Hanging out with the guys, just chatting and talking, whatever. Ortiz shows up there and says, I quote, in my entire tenure, there has been nobody that has been as good for the Border Patrol as DHS Secretary Mayorkas.
yeah,
How can you categorically make a statement like that to a bunch of fellow I mean, you got the perfect audience there to say whatever the hell you want, and you're gonna go out of your way to say that. That was one of many reasons where I would rather blaspheme the Pope before my own chief, even
yes.
retired. But this guy, he's got me shredded.
No, and you should be. And I'm like you. I'm not disgruntled PA. I'm not a disgruntled federal employee. I take great pride in my career with the men and women I worked with and the men and women I supervised. I take great pride in that. But they have tarnished us. Look, when I left
You
Border
went
Patrol,
beyond me because you got mad enough to write a book about it.
yeah, I look, I'm going to be honest. I retired in 2021 in July, which is 2 years ago. I moved my family out of California, um, and I would not read not one article about the border. My friends would call me; they were still working. I would tell them, "I'll talk to you about anything. Do not talk to me about work. I don't want to know about it. I want to decompress. I don't. I'm out. I'm out. I did my time. It's screwed up. I don't want. Just keep me out." But that's against my nature, and I fought it for months and months. And then certain people that knew that I was retired in the media contacted me, and I started getting pulled back in. I started reading a couple articles a day, and then I was totally immersed in it. And I was like, okay, I can't sit here and bitch and moan because those men and women, excuse me, Gil, those men and women on the border can't say anything. I've been there before where I wanted to scream, please, dear God, somebody look at this. This is unlawful. You can't do this. And no one was out there speaking. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to be that guy. I don't want it. I would rather I would love to be talking to you right now. President Trump's in the second term. Can you believe, Gil, that we're arresting 50 people a day? Isn't this the greatest thing in the world? Remember the old days? And no, I'm in here talking to you about Mayorkas,
This
who's a
current
traitor.
nightmare. Yes.
Biden, who is mentally has dementia, has no idea. So when I say Biden, I'm talking about the people that run him,
Exactly.
are destroying our nation. It's being destroyed. And you have and you rip the pride. Remember when Trump, toward the end of his career, end of his term, there was incredible pride in the Border Patrol. We were deporting people. We were arresting everybody. ICE agents were off the chart with their morale and pride. Now look at it now.
Well, JJ,
Because
look, first of all, that Trump got hit with that manufactured caravan, right?
Yes.
All of a
Yes.
sudden, 15,000 people woke up one morning and decided to rush the gates. And that was just
Yep.
before the election. And so a lot of people will be like, well, it was no different during Trump's term. He had, those
No.
caravans were coming and everything else. But MPP, the Title 42, he found everything he could to make sure we brought all that crap under control.
Yep. Now you got to remember back, and this is, and Gil, this is not like, I'll just be very front and blank. I can't. The Democrats that are in are anti-American. They hate America, but I am in no way giving the Republicans a pass. The
Right.
Republicans are as anti-American and as all in for themselves as, look, you had Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell in the House and Senate. We had the House, Senate, and the presidency, and they fought President Trump and barely gave him $5 billion. He had to go into the defense contracts and pull money out of the defense budget. But they can send over $100 billion to Ukraine and $1 trillion to Afghanistan, Iraq to secure their borders. But they don't. So then you have to ask yourself, right? If you're a critical thinker, you have to ask yourself, well, why wouldn't they do that? Well, because the Republicans want the wealth from the Chamber of Commerce and cheap labor, more donations, and then contract work when they get out being a politician. The Democrats all want cheap labor, because if you look at Democrat-run cities, what do now? They either have legislation or patch legislation to allow illegal aliens to vote. If illegal aliens voted for Republicans, do you think they would allow them to vote?
There'd be a wall up into the moon.
Yes. If all these people voted Republican, Nancy Pelosi with her permanently raised eyebrows from her 10th facelift, and Chuck Schumer with his fake hair plugs, he would be there, and they would be building the wall. And Gil, they would be saying the exact same damn thing that we're saying.
Yes.
America needs sovereignty. We have to have secure borders. And
they used to say those things, JJ. We have Schumer and those guys all recorded as saying that illegal immigration has to be controlled, has to be enforced. And all of a sudden there's this humongous switch. And like you said, and I believe, let me tell you this, I believe that we got a bunch of rhinos elected in these past few elections that nobody was paying attention, and now we're paying the price.
Yes, we are. I don't trust any of these politicians. I think there's a few, but the vast majority, they either are grossly ignorant, willfully ignorant, or they're corrupt. And this isn't a conspiracy. This is, you just listen to what they say.
Yeah.
You don't have to come up with, well, you believe in the Great Reset and changing demographics. You're making this stuff up. Well, no, actually, here's a recording. Here's a recording. Here's another recording. Why do you not believe these elite politicians and businessmen and corporations when they tell you what they want to do?
And then when
they're doing it, you act as if I'm the bad guy for telling you that this is what's happening. And you're like, oh, you're crazy. You're a conspiracy theorist. No, you're willfully ignorant. You're the problem with America. You're not engaged, you're willfully ignorant, or you're just stupid. Whichever one there is, it's still bad no matter which one you choose, but you're one of them, right? Yeah. And if I sound angry at those people, I am, because this is my country.
Yes.
This isn't about the color of skin somebody has that's an American. The truth about Americans are, true Americans, we don't give a rip about the person's skin color. We don't care. That's a manufactured lie about the narrative that we're a racist nation. In fact, I will prove that we're not a racist nation. Have you, Gil, in all of your time in the Border Patrol, standing in a line, working the whole line, how many tens of thousands of people poured across that border under your watch that you had to go chase and arrest? And let me ask you a very simple question. How many Americans did you see running across the border and jumping that fence into Mexico? None. None. So why would millions of people come to a racist, horrible nation? The answer is we're not racist, we're not horrible, we're the greatest nation on the earth, and we have a right to our sovereignty, and we have the right to say who the hell comes in our nation. But we don't, because we allow these politicians into the positions of power, and they've usurped their constitutional rights and abuse them. We do not have, Mark Levin, the great writer and constitutional thinker, he coined it perfectly. We are in a post-constitutional country, meaning our Constitution means nothing. The checks and balances and the three branches of government have been eviscerated. We do not know. We don't have state rights anymore. I mean, look at California. Yeah. They've instituted, and now Illinois is about, they have legislation on the governor's desk. They're going to allow illegal aliens to become police officers. Now, tell me how that plays out. How does it?
Right.
You think that they haven't.
But JJ, you know what? Every hour on the hour, both DHS, CBP, Homeland Security, they tweet, they post on Facebook and Instagram that they're enforcing Title VIII consequences, and they're enforcing the immigration laws of the United States, and it would take an act of Congress to change that.
No, the dirty secret is there's more than enough laws on the books. Now,
yes.
Do I think the laws need to be gone over with a fine-tooth comb and tightened? Of course.
Agreed.
Of course.
Agreed.
But if you follow the laws that Trump was following, you put pressures on the Northern Triangle, and you tell those savage nations, if you do not do what I want, because I'm the greatest nation on planet Earth and I control everything, I'm going to come down with you, and you're going to not get a dime from us, and we're going to dominate you. And what did they all say? They said, yes, sir. I'll do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Because we're America. But we don't. We don't act like that now. Yeah. We act like, come take everything that we have to offer. It's yours, because we're a racist country. Mayorkas says it. Listen to what Mayorkas says. Mayorkas is a Haitian immigrant that came from, a Colombian immigrant. And you think he would come and go, I want that law and order that's allowed me to rise up the ranks as a Cuban immigrant in the greatest nation on planet Earth, to be in charge of the most powerful law enforcement organization in the planet. And yet he turns around and says, no, we got, this is ill-gotten gains, and we're going to bring in people because that's the right thing to do. Hold on a second. Your job is to secure the border and get sovereignty for America. Your job is not to change immigration. I mean, if you, again, Gil.
But JJ, according to him, he has been doing that. According to Ortiz, our last chief, the border has been secure. In fact, in some cases, they say the most secure it's been in a long time. So to them, this is what a secure, closed border looks like. And now you have a green uniform standing in front of our dedicated, honorable, honest men like you who have served in the Border Patrol, like us that have served in the Border Patrol, having to listen to a green uniform say that everything they're doing is right.
Well, this is where, and this is if I go back to those 6 months where I refused to watch anything, once I started to dive back in, the old feelings of being resentful, angry, but the feeling that really pulled me back is the feeling that they talk to me like I'm a stupid moron.
Oh,
right?
Thank you.
The border's secure, but that's how much Chief Ortiz, Mayorkas, and the whole crowd, that's what they think
Huffman
of the government. They think that you are so incompetent, so stupid, so of the unwashed masses that you do not have the ability to critically think. Hell, you don't even have the ability to look and see thousands of people crossing every day, tens of thousands, and you are going to listen to them because you're so stupid. That is really what they think of you. They think you, America, not just Border Patrol, but America, they think that you are so stupid, that you are of the unwashed masses of middle America, that you don't have the ability to comprehend what they do. So they just lie to you. They just lie to you.
JJ, I hate to say this, because I'm not any smarter than the average guy either, but I'm starting to believe that a good segment of this country is just, doesn't have the ability to comprehend to the extent of this is going on. Now, we have put out some serious stuff. You wrote this book. I'm going to put I'm sharing the links to it, but tell us before we close today, what just happened to you in your efforts to publish this book?
Thanks for allowing me to talk about the book. I've already got some reviews back from Border Patrol agents, and they've been very good. They've loved it. They feel like they have a voice. So it's called Invaded, the intentional destruction of the American immigration system. 5 months ago in end of January, it usually takes 9 to 18 months for a book to be published. A publisher found me where I reached out to multiple publishers and we had discussions, and I chose one called Post Hill Press under the imprint of under Simon & Schuster. So a very large independent publisher, publishes Dan Bongino, et cetera, so conservative. They said, JJ, we love your manuscript. Let's get it sent. Let's get it fast track. We call it a crush. So we're going to do a super crush, meaning we're going to condense 18 months down to 4 months and we're going to get it out because it's so timely. Sounds good. Here's my manuscript. And then we went through the editing process, which is arduous, right? Constantly sending back. Think about when a supervisor red pen your 1326, right, for about the 15th time, and you guys are screaming at each other. That's
even though you have a copy of the last one he gave you.
The last one you signed off on, you stupid bastard.
Yes,
now
but oh God.
Yeah, right. So I went through the same thing, but imagine it times 1,000, right? Because it's hundreds of pages and it's arduous, right? But it was fun. I learned a lot. So I went through all that back and forth, back and forth. This looks great. We love it. Boom, boom, boom. I instinctively knew something was wrong about a month out from my final publishing date. I had nothing to go on to say, here's my proof. Nothing. I just instinctively, God puts in me, as in you and multiple law enforcement, this feeling, right? This
the gut.
Something's not right. My gut. So I was supposed to get a publicist 2 weeks prior to my book for marketing. My book's supposed to be on the website. None of this is happening. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm kind of stuck, right? Okay, you tell me that this can't happen, blah, blah, blah. Then my book gets published on Amazon through Post Hill Press. A company bought my audio rights, which I'm very proud of. It takes a long time to do that, but he bought it instantly. And the voice actor that did my book did American Sniper and did the last Ron DeSantis book. So he's very well recognized and sought after. And I got him to do my book. Very excited. So the audio company calls me and says, JJ, I'm looking at your book on Amazon and it's saying under publisher, it's saying independently published. That's not correct, because you got to understand, they bought the rights to my audiobook with the knowledge that Post Hill Press and Simon & Schuster were going to push my book, right?
Right.
So I email the president sends me back an email and basically says, I'm not going to give you any PR, I'm not going to do any marketing, I'm not going to put you on my website, and I'm not going to put my name on your book because, and this is like a quote paraphrase, he says, I agree with almost everything that's in your book. However, I have a large segment of my employees that refuse to work on your book. So we're going to step away and just allow it to hang out there. And I was like, no, that's not what the contract says. I could have gone to multiple other publishers, dude, and I had PR machines working right now. You're taking away money. You're taking away my voice. You're taking away my art. I created this. You can't do this to me. We went back and forth, and finally I just said an email on 4th of July, ironically, hey, you breached my contract. You are now going to return all the rights back to me. He agreed, gave me all my rights, but now I have a manuscript with no publisher. It was the last 5 days have been very, very arduous to have really tested my soul. To be honest with you, I don't want to be dramatic, but I poured my heart and soul in this for 6, 7, 8 months. And now I have the people that I entrusted my work to just betrayed me and censored my book, basically. So I pulled myself together like PAs do. Give me some duct tape and a zip tie. I can fix anything, right? So I went back into that mentality that I'm gonna do it. So I had other publisher look at it, back and forth, and I got to the point where, you know what, I don't need this. The world, the publishing world, the media, everything is changing. That's exciting, but it's daunting as well, right? So I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm not giving my manuscript to somebody so they can tell me that I'm racist or there's some, no, and then I'm going to pay him. I'm going to give him half my royalties to that clown to tell me that you're a little too direct. No. So I retain my rights. I publish it back on Amazon. It will come live on Wednesday
Okay.
on Amazon.com, as well as my ebook and the audiobook. All comes about around the same time.
We'll get all that info out there.
Yes, and I appreciate that. And my book is exactly, look, I feel like it's a very good, I'm very proud of my book. I'm very, I believe in it. It is exactly what I'm talking about today. I do not pull punches. I don't skirt it. I don't, and this was my problem in my career, is I would see this is wrong. I need some, and I look around, who's going to say anything? Are we all going to act like this is okay? Right? The way that you treat this agent, this is okay? Or we're now doing expedited removals when this guy should be a 1326. Is anybody going to say it? And that's how I speak and write in my book. That's my voice, is I point it out. I'm not sugarcoating it. I called Mayorkas a traitor. I don't say that lightly. I enumerated his treacherous ways and his unconstitutional orders, unconstitutional orders. He is a traitor. I talk about the sexual abuses of women and children that are in the high 60 percentile that are crossing the border, and all the sex trafficking that is occurring on our border.
Oh, yeah.
Because HHS has lost over 100,000 children. Lost it. 100,000. How do you lose 100,000 ends, more or less children, right? But we are the government per our Constitution. So we have allowed our nation to become pimps and smugglers. And you don't have to like what I say. Hell, you don't even have to like me. But you cannot debate me on the data. Our government has facilitated the largest illegal immigration invasion in the history of mankind.
Taxpayer funded.
Taxpayer funded with our money. And they have created a pipeline for pedophilia and sexual deviancy against children. I have a child.
Of course.
You have children working. You have 12-year-old kids working meatpacking plants on midnights. You remember how hard it was to work on midnights? You're getting paid over $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
Could you imagine getting paid $8 on the table to clean up entrails, and you're 11, 12 years old in a meatpacking plant at 2 o'clock in the morning? Why is it why would I never allow that to happen to my son? But you're telling me a kid from Guatemala or Uzbekistan that it's okay for that 11-year-old to do it?
Yeah.
But we are complicit, America, because we say nothing. Our silence is going to condemn us in God's eyes, and I believe that 100%. We cannot be a nation under God in our books and our money, and we allow pedophilia by the hundreds of thousands to pour into our nation.
Especially in the most open border in the history of this country. So now we're going to have to round it down a little bit, but I want to finish my thought with you, because again, I hope that this isn't our last, and I hope this is one of a few talks we do together that we can share with the guys out there in the field, because I know they need to hear that somebody understands and acknowledges what's going on with them. Now, it's not lost on me, and I don't think it's lost on you, that we're on the eve of celebrating the 100-year birthday, the 100-year centennial of the United States Border Patrol, right? Our history, our rich history, heritage, legacy, to be celebrated now after 100 years in the midst of, again, the worst, most wide open border, and by the numbers, the worst human trafficking, smuggling event in the history of this country, 246 years. What's your thoughts on that?
I think it's a shame, right? We should be celebrating. President Trump should be the president. The border wall should be completed by now. Everything should have gone down to a trickle. You should have taken those Border Patrol agents and put them in cross-designated into ICE, and you start eradicating all the criminal aliens out of our nation and illegal aliens out of our nation. And then you build a system that works for America. But instead, we have Border Patrol agents, the same Border Patrol agents that rode ATVs and horses and do vehicle pursuits and get killed. We're telling those men and women that you are now going to process the same people that you were going to deport. And then you're going to shut up. Then you're going to do it over the next day and the next day. In fact,
as you release
I'm going to make you work a 6th day to celebrate the Border Patrol. What I would say to the agents that are watching, as angry as I am, as resentful and pissed off as I am at our leaders in our nation, don't give up. Retain your pride. You are being forced to do something that is against your will. No one is holding you accountable. But be ready. Find ways to not work as fast as you need to work to process people. Don't do the problem with the Border Patrol, and I've said this from day one. We never got the proper funding. Why did we never get the proper funding? Because we did it on a shoestring budget. We just did it because that's the way the Border Patrol is. We just did it. We didn't complain about it.
Yep.
We didn't need a new station. I had holes in the bottom of my car. We didn't have the right equipment. We just did it and we were successful. They bank on that. They bank on jamming those processing centers with 5,000 people and telling you, churn them out. Go against your nature. Don't churn them out. You're not supposed to churn them out. You're following an unconstitutional order. And I understand why you're doing it because you have your pension. I have my pension in my 401k, TSP. So I speak from a more secure area. So I know. So I'm not asking you to do something that gets you fired, but slow down. Stop putting together the old Bronco by duct tape and zip ties. Just stop. Let the bumper fall off. Let the tire roll down the hill and now it's not usable. Let the engine blow up because they didn't have enough money for oil changes. Do the same thing in processing. Just don't do it. Slow down. If you're used to doing 4 cases, do 1, 1.5.
And another thing, and another, I'll add to that I believe that there's a lot of agents and working, Border Patrol that are still maintaining our history and legacy, right? They're those sign cutters out there that are legendary even to this day. There are those highway dogs that can sniff traffic and dope better than any dog. Out there on the highways working it there. So we this is not a reflection. This administration is not a reflection of us as an agency. It's a reflection of their putrid and catastrophic policies to, again, like you said, to devastate this country. So I just thank you so much, first of all, for helping me realize that I'm not the only angry person, retired here. And secondly, that after I've raised your blood pressure, you've raised mine. I got to go take my meds all over again, right? Calm down, right? Watch a show. I don't know what I'm going to do to calm down now, but I want to thank you so much, JJ, for the service you did with the Border Patrol along our brothers and sisters. I think we spilled a lot of same blood in the same mud every now and then throughout our careers. I was class 313, and writing this book, and what I believe is going to be a very strenuous tour around this country, hopefully being able to share the information you have, and we're going to try to get this book off the ground, and in everybody's hands. I order mine so that I can send it to you because I want a signed copy. And so I'm going to do that. I'm going to encourage everybody else to do that. So we'll make sure we do everything we can as fellow PAs to support and help each other out through this ugly process for the next 480 days of this nightmare.
I agree. And thank you for your time. Thanks for letting me be able to speak about my book and speak about my concerns. And I love what you're doing because I know that you feel as I do. Sometimes we're like in an echo chamber, we're talking to ourselves, but this will get passed around. And sometimes agents just need to be told, hey, sit tight, hang in there. It's going to get better. It's as hard as it is to imagine. But it's a tough time to be a Border Patrol agent. It's a tough time to be alumni of it, retired, to see it. So just hang in there, and I appreciate what you're doing, Gil. And I would love to come back and talk to you further on other topics, because it is the tentacles of illegal immigration and destruction of America are far and wide, and they touch every fabric of society.
Even with everything we talked about today, we are barely touching the tip of the iceberg. And like I tell people that interview me, however bad you think it is so much worse.
You're just seeing what's on the surface. So thanks, Gil. I appreciate it.